you always should have a plan B. It doesn't matter how good you are at your career. It doesn't matter how much money you're making. It doesn't matter how much the people love you, because at any point that 9 to 5 can go away. And then you have to rely on your plan B.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? When I got laid off, that multi six figure salary went away. I didn't have a backup plan.
What if losing your job was the moment you finally found your why? Trina Snow shares how a sudden layoff after 32 years in corporate leadership became the unexpected catalyst for transformation. From leading at Nordstrom, Eddie Bauer, REI, and DSW, to standing at a professional crossroad, Trina realized she didn't just need a new job, she needed a new way of living. She breaks down why having a plan B matters more than ever, and what it really takes to build your dreams instead of someone else's. If you've ever felt like the rug was pulled out from under you, Trina's story will remind you the end of one chapter might just be the start of everything you've been waiting for, only on Navigating Now. Trina, it has been a hot minute since I have seen you, lady.
It has been a minute. It's been a couple of years, I think, right?
Yes, before I moved back over to the Spokane area in Seattle, we ran into each other. But you and I met when you were working at Eddie Bauer.
That's right.
And our relationship, we almost 20 years. So I met you at Eddie Bauer, but then you also worked at REI, and then you were at DSW, and then you went off. It's like you have this corporate fashion executive style, and you've done that for years. And we met when I was a model for REI and for Eddie Bauer. But you're just such a great and inspirational person to me, because you were like an executive, but you would always come into the room and see us and say, oh, let's play with this outfit or whatever. And it was just, but you were always so optimistic and so happy. And your energy, you were very magnetic. And I wanted to compliment you on that, because every time you walked in the room, it was like, I want to know this woman.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I completely believe that what you put out there is what you get back, right? And it doesn't matter who is in the room. It doesn't matter who you're around. It doesn't matter what level you're on, that everyone should feel like they belong in a room together. And I've always operated that way. I've always have worked that way. And I just live that way in my day-to-day life, because it's not just about me, it's about people that's around me. And I believe that if you take on that mindset and that type of energy, then more good will come back to you. And we need a lot of that in the world that we live in today, right? We need more positivity and good. And I will tell you that the older I've gotten, the more that I have stepped into that space and making people around me feel comfortable to just be themselves. It doesn't matter, again, what level I'm at, what I've done, doesn't matter. But how do we connect?
Well, and I love that, because you would come into like the fittings, or you would come into the shoots, and it's like you would make even the models or the stylist, everybody feel welcomed. And it's just like what Brene Brown talks about feeling heard, seen, and valued. But then like people belong, and you made everybody want to be there and want to be a part of this, and you heard everybody's voices, and that always stuck out to me. And so that's one of the reasons I reached out to you, because I looked up to you as a mentor, not only because of one of the careers that I took, but also just because you are that magnetic person that makes other people, you're a magnet that brings other people along, and they become their own magnet. And people have told me that about myself, but I see that shine through you very much. And so thank you for being here. And I would love for you kind of to tell the audience like what your background is, like starting with executive or with Eddie Bauer.
Yep. So my career's in retail merchandising, my entire career up until a year ago. So I actually started at Nordstrom back in the, 1989 on the sales floor of downtown Seattle, Nordstrom. And from there, I knew that when I started that I wanted to be a buyer.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I kind of rose through the ranks at Nordstrom, and then I actually got recruited from, as a buyer over to Eddie Bauer.
Could you explain what a buyer is to the audience? Because
absolutely. Absolutely. So a buyer essentially is someone that picks out all the things. So let's say you're at Nordstrom, you like to buy shoes. We are the ones that pick out the shoes, the sizes, the colors, the brands, the styles, everything. And then we decide how many to buy and what stores to place them in. So the reason why you're able to shop in those stores or online is because you have people behind the scenes that's picking everything out in order for you to buy it.
Love that.
So that's what we do. And what I love about it is that it's a balance of art and science. And what I mean is that you can really step into, if you're a creative person, you can step into your creativity, putting things together, we call them assortments, right? So putting these assortments together of, what the collection is going to look like, how it's going to show up to the customer inside the store. But then there's the science part of it where it's all about the math and the numbers, right? How many units do we buy?
Mm-hmm.
How many stores do we put it in? And more importantly, we have to make sure that whatever we're buying, it has to be profitable. We have to make sure that we're going to make money.
Oh,
So
yes.
you balance both of those.
Well, and it is a balance, and that translates to different careers too, and in different industries. Because, like, even as an author, if I decide to purchase or print 2,000 books, I've got to hope that I can sell those 2,000 books, because the
Exactly.
price at 1,000 versus 2,000 is substantial. So.
Yeah.
Do I buy 2,000 in hopes that I can sell the 2,000 and then make more money? But what if no one buys the book? And so it's a science. And it's like, how much money do you have to expendable income that you can buy in the hopes of a gamble? So that's what you did for Nordstrom.
Yeah, I did that for Nordstrom. I did that for Eddie Bauer. I did that for REI. And I did that at DSW. And my role as I, went from one retailer to the next, I was, elevating to the next level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so ultimately, eventually, I became a director overseeing buying teams. So I would oversee the teams and I would be the one signing off on what they were buying, how much they were buying, etc. So it was, it's something that when I was a little girl, at first I was like, I want to do computer programming, not even really knowing what that was back in, the 80s.
Well, I was going to say, like, the floppy disk with Oregon Trail or something.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Back then. And then I was like, no, I want to be a buyer. And it's just interesting how that fell into my lap. And it is a career that I love. I've enjoyed it because I love fashion too.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, you do keep up on all the trends. You get to go to different fashion shows. You're working with all of the different brands that there are out there. And so having that level of connection was a lot of fun, And I met some incredible people along the way, some absolutely incredible people.
Well, and it sounds like this is the career that you were going for at the
Yeah.
time, and it opened all these doors for you, and you spent decades at it, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, and you were growing along the way. Did you want to grow, or did you even see yourself as a leader? Like, all of a sudden,
Yeah.
I'm a buyer, but then did you have those aspirations? And then what was that journey like just to get up that level?
I'm glad that you asked that because I was one of those people where I listen, I knew I wanted to make a lot of money,
Uh-huh.
but I never really wanted to step into a big leadership role to do it because being a leader, that comes with a lot of responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I never saw myself stepping into that. But the more that I became, kind of the veteran in my career, the more that I did see myself as a leader. And I'll be honest with you, my supervisors saw leadership qualities in me before I saw it in myself. So I actually was always pushed to go for certain roles or told that you're going to take this position as the next level up. And I've been very fortunate that way. A lot of, the positions that I've gotten, I haven't had to interview for these leadership roles. It was more of, we really want you to take this position. And the more that I stepped into it, the more that, of course, the longer that you're doing something, the more you learn, the
Mm-hmm.
more you feel like, okay, yeah, I belong here. I should be doing this. And now I could not see myself not leading people because I love leading people. I love making people realize that there's more to them than that they know because I've been there.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't have the confidence, right? But when you get people to realize their true self and what they're capable of,
The
to
potential.
me, that is what really drove me as a leader.
Oh, I love that you say that, Trina, because you're tapping into, like, you had a group of mentors or people who believed in you or a confidence team behind you that was like pushing you in the direction. And sometimes we don't have the answer. We don't know what we
Mhm.
can do. We don't know what our full potential is until someone who sees that or has experienced that, has gone through that before, is like, Trina, you know what? You're really good and you should be able to do this. And they did push you to go above what you thought you could do. And then the other thing I was going to say is that I want people to understand that it's a lot of times jobs and promotions and the getting not only the but like uh raises happen on the back end. Like, you don't even they're not in the paper every day, like, oh, apply for this job. It's like, it's usually internal. And if you're networked and you have a good standing behind you and people do believe in you, they raise you up and
Yes.
you don't have to go through all that. And a lot of things, I think a lot of people are afraid of, they don't think that they're good enough, or maybe, oh, I didn't see it in the paper, so I'm not going to apply for it. But it's like, it's internal. Would you like to tap onto that a little bit? Like, did you find that as well?
Absolutely. And that's why it is so important as you are in your career, what have you, that the relationships that you're building, how you treat people along the way, and how you lead through anything. And let me be clear, being a leader doesn't mean that you have to have a title, right? Being a leader is just how you conduct yourself in business. You know, how you stand out. If you have an idea, share it. If you,
Mhm.
you know, if you want to be in front of a project for whatever, you know, if there's a project in within your team and you want to lead that, you step into it. You don't have to have the title to be the leader. So, you know, how you treat people along the way, I am telling you, that goes so much further, because you will find, and I'm sure a lot of us have had many people who have been our managers, who have been our leaders, our supervisors, that know how to manage people, but they don't know how to lead. There is a very big difference between the two, right? And
Mhm.
leaders inspire. And so that's where, if you learn how to inspire people along the way, again, you don't have to have that title, but how you're dealing with people on a day-to-day basis, that, and that is behind the scenes too, right? That's
Mhm.
behind those closed doors. How you treat people is really what is going to help you to excel to the next level. Yes, what you know is important. How you go about your business is important, but how you treat people too is even more important. You have to have all of that so that you can get to that next level.
Well, one of our last guests, Anna Mazzeo, from the managing director of Wobi Italia, talked about that. Like, she applied for the managing director position in Italy, and it for 6 years she tried to get it, and she didn't. And instead, she changed her mindset, where she was like, you know what, I've been told no so many times, and it's like, I don't need the title, and I don't need the compensation or the money, right? The
Yep.
salary. I'm going to start treating everyone like I am that leader, like I am that person. How can I lift everybody up here at Wobi? How can I lift my team up? And as a direct result of doing that, everybody was like, you need to be the managing director. She proved to
That's it.
herself and to everyone that she had the ability to do it. And it sounds like I mean, you nailed that.
That is so true. And that's ultimately how I've been able to, you know, advance my career, because, you know, I was unafraid to be the voice for the people who was afraid to speak, right?
Hmm.
Because there are some people that are afraid to step into those leadership roles, and they're afraid to use their voice. I
Hmm.
was not afraid to do that, but I also did it in a tactful way. And my thing always is, you know, I approach business in fairness. I always look at what are we doing and what is the ultimate outcome that we are trying to get, and is it fair to the people? If you use that as your filter, then ultimately you get to a place where, you know, more people are happy with the decisions that you're having to make, right? And so again, you have to be that voice when people are afraid to be the voice, step out. And it's okay, and you're not always going to be right about things, but when you're doing that behind the scenes, people will start to notice you. And when those opportunities become available, they're going to think of you, and then they're going to push you the way that I've been pushed in my career. They're going to push you to say, hey, you know, this supervisor position is available, we really want you to take it, because you've demonstrated that you have those qualities and those skills to do so.
Well, and then you have the confidence, because confidence isn't a
Yes.
born skill, it's a learned skill. And it's like
Right.
the more repetitions you get at it, the more experience that you have with it, it's just going to make you that much more valuable, not only to yourself, but to your team and to the company that you're working for.
Right.
Well, I love
That.
that. Okay, so we're gonna change gears here for a second. It's like, so you're working up the ladder, you're working corporate,
Yep.
you're having a great time, you're loving it, you're making money, you're making these great networks and relationships, and you're moving up that ladder, and then you're still moving. So now let's catch up to the story where you're starting to find that there's more to life than just being in corporate, and maybe you've worn that t-shirt long enough and now you want to continue to grow and you want to continue to learn, because we never stop learning, right?
Yep.
And so you want more in life, and I don't mean more money, but like you have more of a challenge to get to prosper for yourself.
Yes. Yes. And I'll tell you, so I've been in corporate for over 32 years, right? And
So
in the
you're
same
only
career.
27 years old.
I am.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Well, you look
27 with
27.
a 33-year-old son.
Oh, I love you. Go ahead, continue.
Yes. So I always, I loved my career, but I knew at some point, because it was retail, and retail has been such a volatile business just because of the digital space coming in, and you have the Amazons of the world and everyone coming in. It just changed the landscape. So, selling every day in retail, it just became a little more challenging,
Hmm.
right? To hit those sales goals that we had every single day became a challenge. So in my mind, I was starting to think of, okay, you know what? If I have to make a shift, what is it that I'm going to do if that happens, right? If I have to make this shift, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? So I would say probably 2 years ago, I was really starting to think of, okay, at some point, I think I'm going to transition to do something different.
Hmm.
But I tell you, this is where I went wrong.
Mm.
I was thinking about doing something different. Okay. I was a multi six figure earner in my career. I was making a lot of money. And it is hard to transition to something else when you're making that kind of money, right?
Yeah.
So in my mind, I was thinking, but I never made the move. I never set myself up to have another stream of something else as plan B.
Hmm.
And so I will tell you, you always should have a plan B. It doesn't matter how good you are at your career. It doesn't matter how much money you're making. It doesn't matter how much the people love you, because at any point that 9 to 5 can go away. And then you have to rely on your plan B,
Hmm.
right? Well, I always tell people, don't be like me, because I didn't have a plan B. And so I'm just going to transition to this for just a second,
Yeah.
Blue, because I got laid off last year, right? I got laid off, and it was because the company wasn't doing well. And I was starting to see that that could be a potential because we weren't hitting the sales goals.
Hmm.
And I was a remote worker. And, so I had this, well, I'm working remotely. And, I used to fly back and forth to Columbus, from Seattle to Columbus, Ohio, once a month. And they paid for my travel too, so you have all of these expenses just for me plus my salary. So I'm like, I am an easy cut,
Yeah.
easy. So I was starting to think that way, but like I said, I didn't make the move. But I got laid off last year,
Hmm.
and guess what? When I got laid off, that multi six figure salary went away. I didn't have a backup plan.
Mm.
So I was trying to think, okay, I knew in my heart that I did not want to go back to another 9 to 5, because freedom is so important to me. Having time freedom to do what I want, when I want, how I want, and build my, build a business the way that I want, that was important to me. And we live in this digital age where there are so many ways where you can earn and have that freedom, just working a couple of hours a day.
Yeah.
And so I decided not to go back to a corporate job. And I had the opportunity to do so, but I was like, no,
Well,
for
you
one,
always could, right? You always can go back to it because you
that,
have that experience. You have a resume,
yep,
and it's like you have this resume that you could fall back onto, but you've already worn that t-shirt, and
yep,
you also have come to realize like a 9 to 5 job is not what brings you the passion or the motivation or inspiration anymore.
No, not anymore. Not anymore. Because again, what is really important to me is having freedom. Like I want to be free to do the things that I love to do. And when you are building your own business, you can have a salary that is uncapped, right? Because
Mhm.
you can determine how far you can go, how much money to make, how much money you want to make by how you're
Well,
setting up your business.
Well, and I love that, but I want to pause for just a second, and there's two things that you were working remote, and a lot of people think that is freedom already, right? And but
Yep.
it's not. But a lot of people hear, oh, I get to work remote, I can take the kids to school, I can do this, and it's like that's not real freedom because you're still
Mhm.
tied to doing something. You have specific quotas you have to hit, or time frames, or KPIs or measurables, and so it's like that is difficult. Number one, and number two, a lot of people believe that money buys you freedom and you're
Yes.
making multiple six figures and it's like that's still not enough freedom. And so so you are working remote, and b, you are making a great living, and it does go away, but it's like at that point you were like, I have this freedom, but what is the freedom that you were looking for? Can you kind of hit that?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, what I will say is that, when the higher you go up, right, and the more money you make, the less freedom you have when you're working for somebody else because the expectations become greater. And so,
Yes.
and yes, even though I was working remotely, there were high expectations, right?
Yeah.
So I never really felt that freedom at all. So for me, the freedom that I was looking for is just, again, I wanted to be able to control my own schedule without having to be tied to somebody else's schedule. And I wanted to build my own dreams for me rather than the dreams for somebody else. When you are working for somebody else, you're building their dreams and not yours.
Hmm.
And you know, I would tell you though, I never saw myself as an entrepreneur. I always saw myself as a corporate worker because that's how we're taught. We're raised.
Well,
You
and
go
that
to
was your
school.
identity for 30 years. That was your
There you go.
identity, right?
That
Okay.
was.
So you had to how scary was it? Well, I want to tap into the entrepreneurial side because that's my kind of that is my that's who I am, right?
Yeah,
So but before that it's like you were your identity was this.
totally.
Was that a hard transition to
Yes.
transfer over?
Yes, Blue, I'm glad that you brought that up because it was my identity. For 30 something years, everyone knew me as this girl who worked, was a director in buying for these different corporations.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of connections, I had a lot of success, and that's how people knew me. And not that, I wanted to be identified as that, but that's just how a lot of people knew me. And
Hmm.
so in my head, that's who I was. So transitioning to become someone different, it took a lot of belief in myself that I can do it, right? It took a lot of me realizing that, you know what, that my past gave me the grounding of in this solid foundation of where I'm going today, but
Hmm.
it's no longer who I am, and it's okay because who I'm becoming is someone that is evolved and changed. And I can take all my experiences and pass that on to now the people that I'm connecting with today. And that is where, and I don't want to jump too far into this, but that's why I've been able to have the success that I've been able to have being an entrepreneur because I'm able to tap into the skills that I've had, but then pass them forward to teach other people how they can do the same.
Well, and I think you mentioned this is that it's your identity and that it's what you believed. You believed that
Yep.
was who you are, but then everyone around you knew you as that too. And
Yep.
as an entrepreneur, for me, I sold sports cards forever, and then all of a sudden I became like a personal trainer, and then I
Yep.
became an actor and a model, and it's like, oh, Blue the actor. No, I don't act anymore. Oh, Blue the
Yes.
model. Oh, I just do. So it's like it's a hard transition
Yeah.
for not only the people around you to think that, but then you're always going to be the personal trainer. I
Yep.
built fences here in Spokane for years, and I was always the guy that will build your fence, right? And I was like, no, that was like my past career. That was my past blue. But that was something that
Right.
I did all through high school that everyone knew me as, right? And so it was
Yeah.
like, that's a hard transition to make, not only for myself, but for people around you. Is what do you think was the catalyst that helped you believe in yourself at that moment? Because I mean, what helped you believe in yourself and say, you know what? That's not my identity anymore. I can be okay with it. Cause you mentioned that you're like, it's okay. But what triggered that? What helped you get through that? Cause that's hard.
Yeah. Simply put, it was my why for doing what I was doing. My why was that I never wanted to go back to a 9 to 5. My why was that I didn't want to build anyone else's dreams. So if I, wanted to have success in this new thing, I had to, I really had to step into it. It was
Mm-hmm.
not easy. It was not because, and I don't want to get too far into this, but I transitioned from being in this office to now being on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Never saw myself doing that. So
Mm-hmm.
shifting that, it took a lot. It took a lot of courage for me. It took a lot of guts too, because, I was putting myself out there as someone different, someone other than what people knew me as, and so, but my why was so great that I'm like, Trina, you have to stay the course. You have to not care what people think. And you got to just every day get 1% better than the day before. And so that's what I
Mm-hmm.
did. I just, every day, I just said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Because if not, I was going to be going back to a 9 to 5. And I was this close to having to do it. And I'm like, no,
Well,
that's just not who I want to be anymore. I don't want to work for anybody else, especially in a day and time where we live in a digital world. And I felt like I had the skills. There are tools that's out there, there are resources out there where I can learn. And as long as
at
I'm
your
willing to learn, yes,
mm-hmm.
exactly. It's at your fingertips. As long as I'm
Mm-hmm.
willing to learn and apply the knowledge that I have, I can do it. And then I looked around, I'm like, all of these other people are doing it. Blue is doing it, and everybody else is doing it. Then why not me?
I,
Why not
I
me?
love that. I love. Well, and then you start to compare yourself to other people, which isn't great or bad, but it's like I look at people, I'm like, if he can get up on stage and control the room, I can do that. Like I'm the guy who does handstand walks. Like I can do that, right? Well, I love that you brought up Simon Sinek's why, number one, and
Yeah,
then number two, you kind of brought in James Clear's like atomic habits, like that 1% more every single day, as long as you're falling
yeah,
forward, moving forward a little bit every day. But what I want to say is that so you found your why and you knew that you didn't want to do something, but that's not what made you move forward. Like there was what was the catalyst that's like to understand, to take the time and figure out what drives you and what motivates you is one thing, but then to take action is another.
yeah,
What was the
yeah.
action? Was it that you had no money, any that six figure wasn't coming in? You're like, I have got to do something. What was it?
Yeah, it was a couple of things. I would tell you it wasn't just one thing. Part of it was that, yeah, that money stopped. So
Mhm.
that money was no longer there. And the thought of putting a resume together, going to interview, because
Terrifying.
for right, well, and I for and this is not me, I don't want this to come off sounding vain, but a lot of my promotions I've gotten without interviewing, right?
Yeah.
And without having to really go for these positions. So I just the thought of it, I know that the level that I would be seeking, because again, if I'm doing it, I need to replace a multi six figure, career. So that's
Mhm.
going to come with high expectations, high, responsibility. And so normally with those type of roles, you're going through, 20 interviews, and
Yes.
then it takes time, right? And I was running out of time, right? I was running because, I got laid off. I literally got laid off 2 days before I was going on vacation. Or actually, no, the day before I was going on vacation, I got laid off.
Mm.
And I said, you know what? No one will ever do that to me again in my life. I had never been laid off. Sadly, I've had to lay people off. And it's
Mhm.
a terrible feeling when you are even on that side of it, having to do it. But then to
Mhm.
receive it is awful. And I was like, I will never in my life go through that again, ever. So
Oh,
that actually was the start of it for me. That kind of was the thing. And then it's like, okay, I'm not interviewing for nothing else. I'm not interviewing. I'm not putting a resume together. And then, oh, by the way, you got to start making some money fast. So figure it out right now.
you hit on something about the delivering a no to someone can be just as catastrophic as receiving that no.
Yeah.
And it hurts to tell people that they didn't get the job. It hurts to fire somebody. It hurts to say you're not good enough for this job right now. And it's like, but then to also be told that you're not good enough or you're laid off, it's the same no. It's just in a different form. But that allows you to see both sides. And I think that
Yeah.
makes you stronger as well and realize what you don't want to do. Right. Like I didn't want to become an anesthesiologist because I met a buddy of mine's dad who told me, like, this is not going to be the job for you. And I was like, oh, I walked out of there not going to school, not going, and it just
Yeah.
saved me so much. I realized what I didn't want to do. And you hearing that being laid off just gave you that much more of an inspiration about, okay, I don't ever want to feel that again. And that is so important, Trina. I love that you said that. So you didn't want to feel it and you started doing the work
Mm. Yep.
to
I
become that
did.
entrepreneur. Tell me about that. Like, and I don't want to throw ourselves under the bus because I do know that you're only 29 years old, but at the same time, it is slower for us to learn social media. It
Mm,
is slower for us to go all in on a certain platform, and luckily we have time and we understand that it's gonna take time. And so if we know that the light is at the end of the tunnel and it's not going to happen tomorrow, we're not going to become an influencer tomorrow. It's like we're willing to put that work in. We're willing to go that 1%
mm.
more as long as we have that why and that passion drive behind us, knowing that we're enjoying the process, the journey. Like we're getting there. But what was that like at where you were at our age and you're trying
Mhm.
to recreate yourself and create a new identity for you?
I will tell you, it was again going back to if they can do it, why can't I do it? It doesn't matter, how old, it doesn't matter the background, none of that matters. I had so much belief in myself, and again, I'm going to keep tapping into the fact that I have this why, that I did
Mhm.
not want to go back to a job. So it was not easy trying to learn these skills. It wasn't, because I had to get over my fears. I had to get over my self-limiting beliefs, and I had to get over my doubts. And you don't get over all of that unless you do it. And so every day I had to push myself to just get out there and do it. And I will tell you, before I decided to put my face out there, I was doing everything faceless because I didn't want anyone to know or see. Because got to remember, at the time, I was still coming to terms with I had gotten laid off amongst,
Mhm.
they laid off 6% of the organization, and I was one of those. So I was coming to terms with that, and no one knew that I had gotten laid off. And then, oh, by the way, now you're entering into this space where everyone's like, wait, what? What are you doing?
Mhm.
So I had to just say, you know what, just get over your fears of people seeing you, get over those self limiting beliefs and the doubts that you can't do this because you can, and just step into it every day. So I actually purchased education to teach me how to do this, right? I purchased, I'm like, you know what?
Golden.
I'm,
I had when I went to UW, I had I think he was a finance instructor, and he told me, he goes, Blue, your education is the greatest asset that you can invest in beside yourself,
yeah,
but it's really you're investing into yourself, right? Because
that's
an
it. That's
education,
it.
it doesn't mean you go to a 4-year college. It doesn't mean you go to a
Nope.
2-year. It doesn't, as long as you're learning a skill that's going to propel you forward. And especially if it's something that you can use to achieve the dream that you want to, you're just building yourself. And that is
Yep.
scary because it's hard to learn things. Like I don't want to learn a new language because of it. I want to learn a new language because I enjoy it and because
Mhm.
it brings some kind of return to me, like my ability to go to a foreign country and feel welcomed and like I belong because I put the work in to learn that language or that culture. And it's like you did that, and I love that you say that because the education, no matter what that looks like, even on YouTube, right? Like I can learn a ton on YouTube. Like
Yeah.
as long as you're learning from something and you're growing and getting better, that's gold.
And I will tell you, I spent a lot of money on different types of education because I wanted it so bad. But I was willing to spend the money to do it so that I could learn. And to your point, when you learn these things, I mean, no one can take that away from me. But I had to make sure too that I wasn't just, keeping everything that I was learning and not applying it. You have to apply what you're learning because they say that if you don't apply what I mean, if you have knowledge that you're not sharing with anyone, what good is it? So what, you know it.
Yes. Yeah.
Doesn't matter if nobody, if you're not sharing it and you're not putting it to use. Okay, now what do you do with
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. So
So
when
I
you're
pushed myself to apply.
when you're paying for this educational stuff, like whether that is classes or workshops or
Yep.
mentorship or something like that, like it is hard to write a check for something, and it is
Yep.
hard, especially because if you don't know if it's going to make you money. And I will, since because we're the modeling world, it like when I first got into modeling, they said, "All right, Blue, you need to put a book together, a portfolio, but you need to pay a photographer $800 to do 5 or 6 different looks." Well, that was money I didn't have, and I was hoping that that $600 to $800 was going to bring back enough for a portfolio that you at REI or Eddie Bauer looks at and like, this guy looks like he could model for us, right? But it's like that chance, and it's like you're investing in yourself in hopes that it goes off, and it's so scary. I remember that time.
You know what? I can't even tell you. I was nervous because I didn't know if I was going to see my return, right, on
Mhm.
what I had invested in. And it took me, I would tell you, it took me 3 months to get my first sale. And so you have to be patient because it may not come right away. But this is what I believe: as long as you are showing up and as long as you are, giving value to whoever it is that you're targeting, then eventually it will happen. And that's what I kept telling myself. This is going to happen. There's no way that this is not going to happen because I know that, what I have to offer people is transformational. I just got to figure out how to make them see it, how to make them see
Mhm.
that what I have is the answer to their problem, right? But that takes a skill, which is why I got the education, because I'm like, I got to know how to do this. I got to know how to attract the right customer. I got to know how to speak to them all
Mhm.
through digital online, because that's a new thing for me. So it was quite the transformation, even for myself, but I had to allow myself patience before I got that first sale. But I would tell you, once you get that first sale, you're like, okay, so I did something right. How do I take that thing and then just keep applying it so that more and more people see it? But then just
Mhm.
keep getting better at it too. So that's what I did. And once you get that first sale, then it starts to snowball. It's like another one comes and then another one comes. It's like, okay, so I think I'm doing something right.
Mhm.
But it all takes time. And did I make thousands immediately? No, I did not. Am I still at the goals that I want to get to? No. Will I get there? Yes. It normally, when you are starting your own business, it normally takes 3 years to really profit when you are starting a business. And
Mhm.
for me, I had to give myself grace and time to see it. I am in profit mode in a pretty big way, but I'm not to the income that I desire for myself, but I know it's coming because I've been laying the groundwork. I've been personally doing the work, and I know that I have the product that is going to be able to transform people's lives, for people who truly wants freedom. And when I say freedom, I mean time freedom to do what they want, when they
Mhm.
want, how they want, but yet earn at the same time.
Well, and I want to go back really quick because you had mentioned this earlier in our conversation is about you laid a foundation. You had to have a
Mm-hmm.
foundation behind you when you were working corporate and when you're working the 9 to 5. And it's like once you had that, it was easy to build up and it was easy for you
Yep.
to create that skyscraper. But then it fell, not because of you, it was out of your
Right.
control, but now you're
Yep.
set down to the ground. And what you've had to do now is start that foundation again. And so
Yep.
it's building those relationships, it's gaining the belief in yourself, it's doing the homework, it's having the goals and setting those goals. And then it's building that. And you're not to the skyscraper level that you want to be at yet, but you're still building. And I'm assuming that you're enjoying the process now.
Love it. I love it. I'm happy. And, like I said, you guys, it is a different thing when you are building your own dreams versus someone else's dreams. It's a different feeling because when you see the small wins, it means so much more because it's all from your own work and what you created, right? When you are working for someone else, yes, you're doing a job, but it's based on what they created and that you
Mhm.
just have to do, right? I created this. I created what to do, how to do it, and to see the wins come because of it. That gives you a certain level of confidence that okay, maybe I do know what I'm doing, and more than anything, people trust me. Like when people trust you to invest with you and through you,
Mhm.
that like the confidence that comes with that even is just it becomes monumental. It really does. It becomes monumental. And so for me, that foundation, and again, the foundation, you can never get comfortable with where you're at,
Mhm.
right? It's never, don't get comfortable because anything can change at any time, whether you're working
You got
a 9 to 5 or
cracks
for
in your
yourself.
foundation. Yeah, but you got to look for cracks in your foundation. Like you've got to always go
Right.
back down and check it out and make sure that everything's stable. Or
Yep.
do I want to expand that foundation? Right, because it
Yep.
could become now it's not only this business, but it could be your side hustle or like a secondary. Right, like my speaking business is one thing, and that is what my main thing is. But it's like I have Dark Side for Life, I have Navigating No Podcast, I have my books. It's like those are all little subcategories of the main business, Blue, right? And it's just these foundations are growing. It's like everything is
Yep.
growing on the outside.
Yep. Yeah. And that's exactly it. And it is about growth, right? Especially when you're new to it. It is all about growing in the space that you're in and never settling for where you're at. Right? You can never settle where you're at because and with the day and age that we live in, things are changing so fast.
Yes.
Yes, with online and then you have AI coming in, AI is pushing things to move even faster. So you can never just settle where you're at because you can get left behind, which is why I decided to do this and step into, entrepreneurship rather than going back to another 9 to 5 because I'm like, you know what? I don't want to get left behind. I don't want to continue to work for, retailers that are struggling. And, next thing you know, it could be 2, 3 years from now and they're going out of business when I could have made that decision to leave 2, 3 years prior. So I don't want to get stuck behind. So making this decision has been one of the best decisions of my life, even though it hasn't been easy. And one other thing that I want to say is that you have to, when you make a decision, to shift to do something, you have to stay the course. You got to stay the course. You got to be consistent with it because the wins don't come overnight, right? That success doesn't happen overnight. It takes consistency to see the wins, and especially if you want to win big, it's going to take some time.
It's the long game. It's the
It
long
is.
game. I love that you said that because so in our I think everybody wants that win immediately and they want to make that six figure. They want to be the influencer. They want to become a billionaire because they see other
Yeah.
people who have done it and they're like, oh, well, if that's what I want. And they leapfrog from thing to thing to thing to thing and they're just scatterbrained. And it's like, stay the course of whatever you're passionate about or what drives you, what your why is, and then stay the course and continue making those little small movements, Trina. And I love that you said that because in the end, even though your skyscraper's not there, you're having so much fun building your own confidence and you're making a difference in the world, not only to other people that are part of your team and part of your business, but then also the relationships that you make, and you're making a difference to yourself because now the reward is you've seen success because of you. right? Because
Exactly.
you are in control of that. You're not in control of whether or not a Lululemon, for example, goes bankrupt or something like that. It's like you're
Mhm.
not in control of that. You're in control of you. You're the one who is
Yep.
in the driver's seat right now, and that's such a thrilling feeling to have, and that's what I've had since I was 12 years old. Like, to be in the car seat, and you're like, I am driving this car, and
Yeah.
I want it to go over there, and I don't know how fast I'm going to get there, but I'm the one who decides how to drive, and it's going to be scary along the way. It is, and
Yep.
that is hard. And I love that you said that. So, what would you say if you could look and talk to your past self? Like, what is something that you would tell yourself along the way to say it's okay? What would you want to know now that you didn't know then?
What would I want to know now that I didn't know then? It's not just one thing. I'll be honest with you. The one of the biggest things is, having that plan B. I just always, you got to have a plan B because it, business is volatile
Mhm.
and so much of it is out of your control, right? And so you have to have a backup plan just in case. And I would tell you, even if having multiple streams of income is important, any millionaire or people making a lot of money, whether it's Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, they would tell you having multiple streams of income is how you get to the big money,
Mhm.
right? So having a plan B, having a backup plan is so incredibly important. But also build on your terms, not on anybody else's. Whatever it is that you have that drive for, build it for you. Don't do it because other people see you a certain way or because other people think you should be doing something, right? You do it because you want to do it. And then more than anything, don't care what people think. You
Yeah.
got to not care what people think because everyone will have an opinion about something, whether you're in your job or you're in business or your family, your friends, doesn't matter. Don't care what people think. What matters is how do you feel about you and the decisions that you're making? And does it make you happy? Because ultimately, you are the one that has to live with it, nobody else. So care about you and how you feel about the decisions you're making, nobody else.
That is golden. I love that, Trina. Okay. So, where can people? So, you've gotten to where you are, you're building
Yep.
the skyscraper. Tell us more where people can find out about you, about your business, like what your dreams are and how you're going to get to that high rise. So, tell
Yep.
people where they
Yep.
can find out more about you and what you're doing.
So my business is I do affiliate marketing, right? So I promote products and I build teams too. And I essentially work with different companies and I get paid for it.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm doing right now. It's digital and affiliate marketing. And you can find and learn more about my business at mwrlife.com/Trina, Trina,
Mhm.
1015.
Okay. And we'll
Okay.
link that
And
for sure.
and social media, I am on social media. So Trina at or Trina.onlinewealthchick.com or not .com. It's TikTok. I'm
TikTok.
on TikTok. Trina online wealth chick. I'm like I have all these different social medias and websites and everything. But Trina online wealth chick
Oh my
on
gosh,
TikTok is where you can
I
find me.
cannot wait to join TikTok just so I can see you. That's the thing. Like you
As long
talk.
as you don't make fun of me.
No, I see that's the thing. Who cares? Who cares
Right?
what people
Exactly.
think, right? No, I'm gonna hold you to that one.
Touche.
I'm just
Touche.
that's why I still haven't done it because I don't know if my ad will fit in the TikTok videos, but because I'm not
Right.
dancing with that thing. Well, I love you, Trina, so much, and I have
Same.
loved our relationship, and I'm so excited to hear about where you're going. And I want to see you keep rising in that skyscraper, and just the wealth of knowledge that you brought and your magnetism. I have absolutely cherished as a friend of yours, and I look forward to seeing you again in person. And I cannot wait to see you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for thinking of me and having me. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed my time too. And more than anything, enjoyed catching up with you, Blue. You're still the same. I
I
love it.
don't look like a spring chicken anymore.
Yeah, you do.
Thank you. Thank you. I just got to get on TikTok. There you go.
There you
I
go.
love it. Trina, I love you. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you
Thank
soon.
you.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Navigating No. If this episode brings you value or you know someone who could benefit from it, the best way to support the show is by sharing and subscribing. It's completely free and helps us reach more people. And if you have any questions, feedback, or guests you'd like me to interview, drop a comment while you're there. I'd love to hear from you. And most importantly, thank you for tuning in. And let's continue sharing optimism and positivity.